Okay, so I had to call my friend Troy. Now before I did that, I wanted to get the tears out and just finish crying and stuff. So I finished that up and I call him and he cheers me up. And then I tell him he cheered me up. Then he asked me if I was sad and I explained to him why I was sad. And then it just made me sad again. And I just started crying again on the phone with him. And, just, and that made me realize that this project is really, it's really freeing me. It's really liberating me. It really is. It's a liberating thing because it's forcing me to come to grips with the emotion that I keep in my subconscious, that I hide away, that I store away, that I lock away. It's forcing me to come to grips with all the pain in my life because I'm actually consciously writing my memoirs based on everything that's happened in my life. So while I'm doing that, I'm forced to confront the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's a wonderful, liberating experience because I have to cope with my greatest fears and my greatest ambitions, all that stuff. I have to stare all that in the face. My greatest fears and my greatest ambitions are staring me in the face. My greatest regrets, my greatest resentments, and my greatest inclinations and aspirations are staring me right in the face. Every single thought I have right now, it's a serious ass thought. A very serious thought. If you can't say that, then you should thank God that you could be so ignorant. You know what I'm saying? Thank God that you're just so stupid to where you just think shallow stuff all day. But I can't blame you because I'm sure thinking shallow is fun. You know what I'm saying? Like playing in shallow water. But you're not doing nothing. You're just playing in shallow water. You're not swimming. You're just playing in shallow water. That's all you're doing. You're getting your feet wet. That's all you're doing. You're just playing in shallow creek water. You're in a pond. You're not even in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? You can't handle the ocean or deep thought. I've been traversing the waters of deep thought since I was 7, bruh. I've been questioning reality and religion and my whole reality my whole life. I've been questioning everything my whole life. Y'all don't question nothing because you don't have no observation skills. You know what I'm saying? I question everything. I question the government. I question the news. I question teachers. I question white people. I question black people. I question people. I don't question animals. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. So anyway, so let's talk about my greatest fears and my greatest ambitions because that's what we were talking about yesterday before I went on the father tangent. Okay, my greatest fears are being a father just like my father, and that's an absentee father. My greatest fears are not succeeding while I'm alive. My greatest fears are not leaving something behind while I'm alive by the time I die to be carried on. My greatest fears are being like Nasia Grover Sr., my friend, Nasia Grover Sr. He was 17 when he died on Mother's Day, 2008, in a car accident. He was the driver. They drove off a cliff at like 2 in the morning. And when he died at 17, he did have a baby that was about to be born in a few months who came to be known as Nasia Jr. And that's just wonderful that it happened like that. But that was a blessing. That was a super blessing. I hope I'm blessed like that. If I die, I hope at least I have a child on the way. But at the same time, I don't want to make it seem like I want to die before I get a chance to meet my child. But if I am going to die, I would like for there to be a child somewhere. And but I would love to be in my child's life. I would hate for my child to have to grow up without me, how I had to grow up without my father, but the conditions will be different because I will be dead. I won't be alive, just not giving a fuck about somebody I created. So that would be my only regret of having children and following this path. And if I ended up dying and I had children that I didn't get a chance to meet or really raise, I would just feel like I left my child abandoned a little bit, but it's all good. I'm thinking through as much as I can, so I'm gonna leave tapes behind for my child as well. I always wanted to do that too. I wanted to, even before I thought about this project, I always knew I wanted to leave tapes behind for my child, for him or her to really get to know me and to never feel like I wasn't there for them. I just couldn't see them in person and talk to them in person, but I did consciously leave a whole bunch of information behind so they could have some insight as to who I was and what I stood for and what that did for the world, and the information that I have to pass on to them that could help them with their lives, like dealing with reality and transcending your reality and breaking through the illusions of reality and breaking through the emotional barriers and, just all that stuff and getting rid of negative emotion. Just like all the stuff I'm on, just putting them on it. So my greatest fears are not being important in life, like not having my chance to exercise power. Something happened to me at 24 during my last year before 25. My thoughts started to get way more serious and like more political. I noticed that I was getting more political. I was like watching a lot of documentaries on mobsters because I was working on the story about the Zodiac mob. Like if the mafia were based on zodiacs, like star signs, you know, Capricorns versus Leos type shit like that. So I was working on a story called Scorpio Season. So I needed to research the mob so I could have some type of foundation for it. So I started researching the mob, and I'll do a segment on that later, I guess, fully telling you everything I know about the mob. That would be funny to hear Chad talk about gangsters and people getting popped in the head. But basically, I studied the mob so much that I know a lot about it. I can tell you so much about it. I'll do that soon. I'm starting to get really tired, like kind of weak. I've been dancing for like 2 hours, so I'm getting kind of weak. And then I'm in this mindset of extreme focus, and I don't know. Life is getting really weird now since I started doing this. But what was I saying? Oh my gosh. What was I saying? Okay, mobsters. Yeah. So I was watching mobsters, and I started watching so much of it, I ran across a mobsters episode on Jimmy Hoffa and the Teamsters. And that's when I was introduced to the role that the Kennedy brothers played in the mafia. The Senate Rackets Committee and stuff. The Senate's racket hearings and stuff. So once I realized that the Kennedys were involved and the mafia had something to do with government, I started getting more interested. Like, okay, so what role do the mafia actually play in the government? Like, what control do they have? What resources do they have in the government? And I started researching the Kennedys. And then I started watching a video called JFK and the Mafia. Just talking about his father's historical background with the mafia. Basically, Joe Kennedy was like a liquor bootlegger. So that's when he got his underworld connections. So when his son started running for like president and stuff, the mafia helped him out, and they spent money to help him get elected and transfer money all over the place. And they really helped him get elected. And there's a good chance that had they not helped out, he wouldn't have been elected. So they did that on purpose, because they were backing Nixon and JFK. So it was like whoever won was supposed to be their candidate. And JFK seemed to have more morals than his father did. But then there's somebody that said his father kind of told him to prosecute the mob. So it was like that. It was like that was one of the rumors of his assassination. It's the fact that basically his father was corrupt, involved in corruption. That he wasn't as corrupt as his father. So he kind of got popped for that, because the mafia thought he was their candidate, and he clearly wasn't, because after he was elected, he kept having his brother Bobby go after the mafia, and he kept going after the mafia. And